All right, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today, we're gonna be talking about the Volkl M6 Mantra. Now, this is a ski that I think a lot of people would like if they tried it. I think specifically Nordica Enforcer fans would really like this, or should at least try it. I think the Nordica Enforcer for certain ski styles is really well suited, but I do think that the tech is so old that the ski has become kind of so heavy and long in the tooth that people who like that kind of crud cutter, something that's gonna sink and blast through icy and kind of wet conditions, would really like the Volkl M6 Mantra. I think the Volkl M6 Mantra has a lot more to offer with having a little bit more flotation, giving a little bit more life and spring out of each turn. Again, if you like the Nordic Enforcer, I'm not trying to get you out of the ski. I think if you like it, it suits your style, ski it. I always say that, like, if you've skied on the ski and you like it, ski on it. You know, this is just my opinion. But I do think that there's a lot of carryover here where if you guys tried the Volkl M6 Mantra, you might be surprised to find that you really like it. As far as the Volkl M6 Mantra goes, I believe I gave it like an 8 out of 10, something like that, 8.5 maybe. But I really like this ski. I felt like it did a really good job with kind of the wet snow conditions. It cut through that stuff. It also had a little bit of flotation. And then on top of that, it carved really nicely. It had a lot of its bite kind of in the middle of the ski. So once you kind of get the ski all the way up on edge, that's where you're really kind of grabbing into the turn. Whereas like something like an Atomic Maverick is a little bit more in the tips, and similar for like a head ski. It grabs, but it'll kind of give you most of your energy at the tail part of the turn. This Volkl M6 Mantra is almost right in the middle, right underfoot. You can kind of feel it. Maybe a little bit above your toes, but it really is more of a center base ski. So you have to kind of have a little bit more hip displacement to get into that good angle that you want. But overall, I really like the ski. I was very impressed that Volkl had managed to make a ski that felt good off trail and on trail, where it was really a fine-tuned carving experience. And I gave it a big thumbs up. I really like this ski. Today, we're gonna see what Ski Essentials thinks. As always, they tend to give really good, insightful reviews, but they do have a little bit different style than I do. They also sell the skis, so they don't tend to talk as negatively about the ski. So that's where I come in. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm not selling anything. I'm here to tell you the good, but also the bad. Now that all being said, here's the bad part of the ski. I did feel like the ski, because it doesn't have as distinct of an hourglass shape where it's kind of like not got a lot of difference between the underfoot and the tips, you don't get kind of those snappy, shorter radius turns. You kind of have to like extend out your turns, and if you really want to like get that high edge angle, you almost have to do that with your hip movement rather than just like building pressure in the tip. So if you're used to that, you'll really like it, and if you're not used to it, it takes a little bit of like mileage to kind of get tuned into that. You can do it, absolutely, but it is a unique style of skiing, and I tend to like initiating my turns a little bit more with boot pressure rather than hip placement. You know, that's also partially personal preference. But if you're gonna be on these skis, you should know the good and the bad. They're also pretty chunky, you know, so they can feel kind of like wide and beefy. They're not the lightest skis, but if you're in the Pacific Northwest, the East Coast, these things really cut through crud. So, you know, with that design comes good and bad. But I want you to know about that so that if you get these skis, you don't feel tricked or anything like that. But overall, like I said, a very good ski. I think I gave it an 8 out of 10. I really think that they went out of their way to make sure that the ski skied well off trail, but also carved well, which they didn't have to do. A lot of people will buy 2 sets of skis, and they went out of their way to make sure they had a ski that you could pick up and enjoy on almost any conditions off the chairlift. So I thought it was a really cool ski. I think it's a really nice design. But let's see what Ski Essentials has to say.
What you were saying with the Volkl people is they're like, oh, look at what I can get out of this blaze.
Right.
You know, I don't have to work nearly as hard to do it in the Mantra. But
I might choose Mantra. If I had to choose between those skis to only ski one of them all year.
All year. Any snow condition, any time. There's not a wrong answer, but
I think I would choose Mantra.
yeah.
Because I just love the way that this thing carves.
It's pretty impressive.
It's very rewarding.
Yeah. And this ski returns unchanged for this year, so we do get the graphic. This is still that M6 build with the tailored Titanal frame, the tailored carbon tips, nice and heavy, 2,170 grams. This is the 184, so a little bit longer. And just, you know, when we're putting it up against Bonafide, Enforcer 94, Jeff's Black Edition Ripstick 96 there, it's right there. I mean, this is about as stable and precise as they get.
So
I'm just gonna say I do think it would be a good choice if you could only pick one pair of skis. I know that they call it the one ski quiver, but I'm gonna call it like a daily driver or maybe like a safety ski. You could always take these off the wall or have them in your truck, have them on your car, whatever. But you could have that ski handy and it would always be a good day of skiing. It's not always gonna be perfect, right? Like a powder day, I'd want something a little bit lighter that would have better flotation. On a like really icy grooming day, you could say that like a Stokely Laser is gonna do better. I might like my Atomic Maverick a little bit more. But every day this would be a good ski. And it performs well in such a wide variety of conditions that, yeah, it deserves a lot of credit. And especially people who like that style of skiing. I know people who have that specific style where they like to have their hip placement initiate the turn rather than the tip of their ski. And that's a preference. They really like Volkl skis, and this is very true to form. It reminds me a lot of their GS skis, honestly.
Like my thing with Mantra and that grouping of skis in general is I think the Mantra is the most precise.
I agree.
I think the Bonafide is a touch stronger from a pure stability power perspective, but if you're a technical skier that enjoys precision, that is the most precise.
And then the Enforcer, I would say, is the most versatile.
Yes.
So
in that grouping of metal-clad, stiff, powerful skis.
Yeah, and we get that a lot. Just because, not only because they're top-end skis, but because they've all been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So
and people know them.
Yeah, that threesome comes up a lot in terms of what are the differences.
Yeah.
But I think that you highlighted that perfectly. But yeah, we get that 3D radius here as well. What are our numbers here? 32, 19, 26. So a little bit of a longer cut in the middle, and then we're getting that sharper turn at the end. So that's giving it that nice round kick at the end.
Yeah, just so much fun.
And then when it comes to soft snow, it's not the easiest to ski.
But they've made it easier and easier.
Yeah.
Every time they change it, I think it gets a touch easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I experienced too. It's like, it does well. It doesn't feel like it sinks straight through like a Stokely or even like some of the narrow skis like a Volkl Deacon. But it's not perfect. Like it definitely, you feel some of that lack of flotation. It really wants to sink into the base and then grab. It's not kind of carving on the top layer of the snow. But what that allows you to do is not get hung up on some of that heavier snow. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest, if you're on the East Coast and the base underneath is heavy, you can get right to that spot and keep the edge in that hard pack, cut it through the kind of mashed potato stuff and have a clean turn. So, that's a pro and a con. But I had the exact same experience with it. As far as precision go, I do agree. Like it's a very precise, well-tuned turn. You just have to be accustomed to that style. If you're coming from the Atomic where it's like very tip focused, or you're coming from the Fisher Ranger where it's almost initiating the turn for you, it's a big difference because the Volkl M6 Mantra will give you a clean turn, but you need to like kind of get that ski up on edge and then have your hips in the right place and almost kind of throw the skis, get them locked in before they'll go. It's not as bad as an Nordica Enforcer in that regard, but it does need more hip movement to get the turn up on edge, rather than Fisher Ranger, Atomic Maverick, where they're very like, you're really focusing on the tip of the ski to get that shape to change. This ski is like, okay, we're gonna create a stable platform and then you're gonna create that angle. But everything they're saying is like spot on. It's a really good assessment of the Volkl M6 Mantra. It kind of sits in this weird place between skis, but also covers a lot of ground between them.
It's lively, it's, energetic, it's engaging on firm snow. And then when you get it into softer snow, you just have to work a little bit harder to make it do its thing. But it's certainly not impossible. And that's,
That's really good skiing. Yeah, you see the drill he's doing? The reason people do that, where they ski on one ski, on our race team we used to do the one ski drill. What it's getting you to think about is how you initiate your turn, so kind of being over the front of the ski to get it to come around. And it forces you to have enough balance and confidence on your inside edge. You're not like standing on your inside edge, but you really do need to be able to trust that it's gonna come around. So if you're ever wondering why people do that drill, that's what it's kind of accomplishing.
That's fine. There is some decent rocker in there, especially when you decamber the center of the ski. You know, it starts low, but not a whole lot. And then tail is not much going on there either. You know, it's very much that directional, hard charging ski that works really, really well on the feet of expert skiers. You know, you're a former racer and you're looking to make the most out of your day. You know, and you want it to go where you point it. It's
what my ex-NORAM Division 1 girlfriend skis.
Right.
And loves it.
Yep.
Like, she wouldn't ski anything else.
Yeah. You know,
she would, but she does sometimes. But that's her choice, and it, like, you can tell that it satisfies her, like, under, like, deep-rooted desire to make race turns.
Right.
Yeah, and I think too, if you're somebody who's ever felt like, hey, the ski isn't stiff enough, I'm like flexing it to the max all the time, the ski isn't like holding enough of my energy. If you've ever raced and been like on an Elan ski, maybe a Salomon Super G ski, some of those like old, really, really stiff skis, you might really like this. And especially if you've been on like Volkl GS skis and you like that turn style and you like that feeling of like kind of getting your hips into place that way to get the turn rounded out, this is a great ski. I mean, it has a lot of that Volkl race DNA in it, while also being able to handle most of the mountain, and more importantly, most of the conditions that you'll see, especially up in Oregon, Sierra Cement, and the East Coast. This is what I call a crud cutter. You could argue that some of the other skis are more in that field, but I do think this is a really top of the line crud cutter ski.
So it's a very interesting ski in that it does those things. It makes those race-like turns. It satisfies high-level racing skiers.
Right.
And then for someone like me who doesn't have a race background, like, I still enjoy carving on this thing, but I also feel like it's a lot of work.
Yeah, but I've seen you ski moguls on that thing pretty effectively.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's harder to...
It is a lot of work, yeah, because if you're someone like Bob, or, you know, I'm kind of a similar build to Bob, I like flexing the boot and getting turn initiation that way, because you can kind of like just gradually build your pressure and get your turn that way, rather than having to do like all this hip work. If you're someone who has Jeff's ski style, where he's like really loading the ski and then he's kind of throwing the skis and then reinitiating them, you're not gonna notice that as much. But if you're somebody who likes to really like use the gradual pressure to get it going, it does feel like a lot of extra work. But that's primarily a ski style, but I totally sympathize with Bob and agree with that assessment. It feels like a lot of extra movement to get it going. But again, like when I was in bad sticky snow, the Volkl M6 Mantra performed far and away the best.
I think when they put the 3D radius in it, that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Just less catchy.
Yep.
But it's still heavy. That's that's the thing that gets me when I take it off piste.
Yeah. But it's awesome.
It's a great ski.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would rather ski it all year than a Blaze 94.
I'm still taking the Blaze just because I'm a little lazier now that I'm in the older age.
I'm glad that we can differentiate from each other a little bit.
And I like it off trail. I agree with that part, because I think it provides such good diversity. It gives you a little bit of flotation to keep you above kind of the murkier stuff, but then it doesn't get like slowed down by some of the bad snow. So I think it feels really good. And you know, because of that kind of like throwing it side to side, you can get some pretty clean turns in between trees, depending on length and then your turn radius, and obviously. But I found it to be a much more comfortable ski off trail than I was expecting. So overall, I thought this was a great review. I think the guys at Ski Essentials hit it out of the park. It was like very good assessments from two very different ski styles, and I think that by doing that, they were able to cover like the whole experience of the Volkl M6 Mantra. I do think that because they're on the East Coast, they're not necessarily feeling some of that sloppier snow. They would in the spring, like if you went to Sunday River in May or something, you would notice it. So I would challenge them, like if you get a chance, try the Volkl M6 Mantra somewhere that's open really late in the year. Sunday River used to be open May 1st for free. So, you know, that's how I know they get some sloppy conditions, but also like J Peak is open pretty late. Something like that, this ski feels really good. I took it late year out here in Idaho, and normally our snow is pretty fluffy, but because we had such a long winter, we got into, you know, April and May, and the snow on the parts of the mountain, because it's more 360 than it is the East Coast, The East Coast, you kind of have lanes. The West Coast is kind of like open, almost panoramic views of skiing. Because of that, we get some spots that kind of bake in the sunlight, and they'll get really sticky and heavy, and you won't even notice it until you kind of cross that shadow line, and then, you know, you're kind of going over the top of your skis. These Volkl M6 Mantras cut right through that with no problem. I was on my Vantages that day, and they definitely got hung up a lot more with that Horizon Tech. These Volkl M6 Mantras were my favorite spring skiing ski because they just cut through things. They didn't make me lose momentum when I needed on the cat track, and they were able to kind of weather all conditions really well. They have definitely some very style specific carving in them, but the fact that they baked carving in it all to this all mountain ski and still did such a good job off trail, I think really speaks volumes with the Volkl design. So, as I said, 2 big thumbs up for Ski Essentials. I'm just trying to give you guys some perspective as someone on the West Coast and someone who has seen sticky snow near the Pacific Northwest, and add that into these guys who are from the East Coast. And I grew up from the East Coast, so I'm familiar with what they're skiing on, but I just wanted to give my perspective because it is a great ski and it provides a lot of added value if you're somewhere like where I am in the spring. So anyway, that's the end of the video. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. I do kind of have different types of content, like tomorrow I'll be on snow with the Black Crows. Another day I'll be on snow with a GoPro kind of strapped on. Another day I'll be reacting to content like this. It's kind of a healthy mixture. So if you like any of that kind of content, consider liking and subscribing. It helps my channel out a lot, but more than anything, just, you know, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my videos. It means a lot to me and I really appreciate it. I know, you know, that gets said a lot, but I really do appreciate that people take the time out of their day to watch my videos and that they enjoy it. You know, because that's what I'm going for. I try to make videos that I like watching. I love ski content. I love watching other people's videos, so I'm trying to add the kind of stuff that I would enjoy myself. So, anyway, as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.